So we are digesting events of Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. The Green Party is now investigating a councillor who shouted Allahu Akbar after being elected and said that Palestine had the right to fight back. This is Mohsin Ali. He won the Gipton and Hare Hills Award in Leeds with more than 3,000 votes at Thursday's local elections. Have a listen.
We will not be silent. We will raise the voice of Gaza. We will raise the voice of Palestine. Allahu Akbar! Allahu Akbar!
So, angry scenes actually there. There were people off camera that you couldn't see, basically telling him to put a sock in it. The Green Party spokesman has said that they are investigating issues which were drawn to our attention in relation to councillor Mohsin Ali, so cannot comment further. However, we are clear that we never support anything that extols violence. But, Benedict, this Gaza issue has played a pivotal role in these local elections. We've now got a Muslim group holding Keir Starmer to ransom over 18 points that they want to see enacted if Labour are going to get their votes. Your assessment of this situation and how we've got to this place?
I mean, in the short term, it's not going to prevent Sir Keir Starmer from becoming Prime Minister, I don't think. Medium to long term, it is a headache for him to have for the Labour Party to have lent so heavily into, I suppose, if you want to say, a form of identity politics in certain parts of this country. To have done that and sort of rely on those votes as just being, sort of a guaranteed thing, I think was very foolish. I think they'll have done that based on the idea that those votes probably wouldn't ever go to the Conservative Party. But I think, as we've seen with the success of George Galloway and Rochdale and in these local elections, actually Gaza is playing a role. It is cutting through. I think
and independent candidates that will stand.
Absolutely. If this could be harnessed by a political party or, just a coalition of people, it could cause serious problems for Sir Keir Starmer and the Labour Party in general down the line. As I say, short term, I don't think it's going to block his sort of path. But this is, I think, a very concerning thing because this isn't, I don't think, simply a question of people saying that what's happening in Gaza is unacceptable and disgraceful. I think that there is a broader element to it which does need to concern people, which is that this is very clearly a pet project of a lot of people. And I don't say that to be flippant, but it is very obvious that a lot of people are taking what's happening to Gaza very closely to heart in a way that they aren't taking other conflicts around the world to heart. These people have no interest in what's happening in Darfur or Xinjiang or Rakhine, where actual genocides are happening. These people have absolutely no interest in that. It's the one that involves the Jewish state. But one of the things that does need to be sort of pointed out is that a lot of these people are from three different backgrounds: Bengali, Kashmiri and Pakistani in general. What do those countries all actually have in common? They are all neighbours of Israel, and sorry, not Israel, India. They don't get on particularly well with India, and they have been to war in the very recent past with India. So these people get very angry about Gaza. Fine, humanitarian issues around that, you can make a justified case for it. What happens if a war breaks out between Pakistan and India, for example? The government in India is very aggressively Hindu nationalist. It is quite belligerent. It's not in a sort of a conciliatory mood when it comes to Pakistan, which is itself also a country in turmoil. What is to say that these people might not switch their attention from putting pressure on the Labour Party over Gaza to, say, turning their attention to the Labour Party when it's in government and saying, well, you need to be supporting Pakistan over our actual ally, which is India in that situation? So,
Scarlett, this is the tip of the iceberg in terms of potentially international Muslim, Islamic countries, conflicts being brought into the political landscape here.
I think we have to understand that what's actually really happening is that a lot of Muslims feel that their fellow religionists, that Muslims in Gaza are being killed in their thousands, and that Britain is not standing up for them enough. Now, this isn't about foreign things. I mean, we completely accept that Jews feel very strongly about Israel, right? Absolutely no question about it. So why can't Muslims feel equally strongly about Gaza? I think, and that's what we have to understand, is that it's about that. I mean, I think that this whole thing about we're really worried about them putting pressure on Keir Starmer, I mean, it's just not going to work.
Is it not going to work? Because I think what Benedict's saying is that there is a faction of people in this country who are weaponising this conflict in order to gain more power in this country. And ideologically enact out international conflicts, which and the power is there.
I mean,
more than 40
I have to say, one of the things, I think, it must be said, I do think that the Labour Party are going to win a majority of the next general election, but there is a line of thought. I know that the Tories are sort of clinging on to it desperately, saying, oh, well, there could be a hung parliament. There's not. But there is a line of thought that could say that actually it won't be a large majority. You only need a few constituencies to be made up of people who feel very strongly about an issue. And I wouldn't just say Gaza. It's something else we do need to bear in mind is people who are very pro-rejoining the European Union, actually in certain other areas that the Labour Party is targeting very, very strongly about that. You can apply pressure to the governing party if you have the numbers in that sense. But again, you say it's not about international issues, it's about Muslims feeling very strongly about what's happening to other Muslims. I go back to what I said at the start. They don't care about what happens to Muslims in other genocides where it is about religion. What's happening in Xinjiang and Rakhine, what happened in Sri Lanka to the Tamils was about religion. Ultimately, they don't care about that. It's the one that involves the Jewish state. And that, I think, is very dangerous. We can't actually just dismiss it and say, well, it is about, a religion and they feel justified in this. All of that sort of melts away when you consider that they're absolutely fine when it's other groups doing it to Muslims that don't matter so much.
They're not absolutely fine.
There are no marches. There are no marches about what's happening in Darfur.
They're not standing for election, though.
Right. Can I speak?
Yes.
All right. So what I'm saying is actually so there are two things. The marches are not just Muslims. Let's get this absolutely clear.
Yes, there are 17 Jewish people as well.
The marches are massive. There are Jewish people, but there are lots
who can't speak Hebrew. Funnily enough.
Actually, there are Jews who can speak Hebrew, but let's say that there are also on the marches there are a lot of people who are secular. I mean, who are people like me who were brought up Christian, right? So the marches are massive and they're interdenominational, right? So I just think this whole... What worries me is that we're getting into a Muslims are terrible, we need to be worried about Muslims, we need to be worried about the Muslim vote. I mean, actually, if you look at it, I'm not sure that it happens anymore, but certainly in the big abortion votes, the Catholics would do it. That any MP, you talk about to any MP, and I'm sure it's the same with the Conservatives, but certainly I know with Labour MPs, that during the election they have group after group saying, we're not going to vote for you unless you do X, Y, Z. So whether the Muslims are better, this particular Muslim group, and remember, to put it mildly, it doesn't even involve most of the Muslim Labour MPs, this group.
So why are people a little more frightened of this?
Because I think they're making... The people who are frightened are people like GBNews and the Daily Mail. It is not people in the Labour Party. What the Labour Party realises is that when Keir Starmer said... very mistakenly, that Israel had a right to stop aid and food and water getting into Gaza, that he was utterly, utterly wrong.
So what is it then about the Daily Mail and GB News viewers that might find this concerning? I mean, I would speculate it's because we're fed up with life in this country, and when a local councillor stands up to accept his applause for winning, I want him talking about the potholes, the rubbish, the streetlights, all of the stuff that affects British people right now, which is grinding us down every day, our local transport systems, not to stand up there and say, Allahu Akbar, this is for Gaza.
This is a councillor who probably, I have absolutely no idea, and it's the Green Party, who will probably no longer be a Green Party councillor. We're talking about one councillor who was, to put it mildly, pretty stupid.
Well,
right? It was unbelievable how stupid he was, right? And obviously the Green Party had not checked him out before he became their councillor. But there were thousands of people standing for election, and most of them, of whatever religion they were, are interested in potholes and the cost of living. And to pick up...
Are they Benedicts?
I go back to what I said at the start. This isn't about Islam and people being scared about Muslims. It's about Jews and people hating Jews. That's what this is about. Ultimately, I think that this is a hijacking of what you say, hijacking of local issues. Clearly, this is something that matters to a lot of people more than local issues, to which I would say, and I would echo, actually, actually what was just said about the candidate, that's a very stupid thing to care about, because actually your standard of living will go down if all you do is try and pass motions condemning Israel at Oldham or Leeds County Council or whatever it is. That's not going to change anybody's life. I do think the majority of people in this country are fed up with how it's being run, but this goes to show actually what just a little bit of motivation and a little bit of organisation can do in terms of putting pressure on politics at a larger scale.
Well, that is a very good point, because the Muslim communities are very organised when it comes to politics. And in a way, you can't blame them. But if you look
Bev, I've just said that most Muslim Labour MPs do not even support this Muslim vote thing. Most Muslim councillors do not support it. So there are some.
But if Keir Starmer knows how politically engaged the Muslim community is in this country, and he thinks he might need them to get him over the line, if he thinks that George Galloway and independents are sufficiently powerful that they will steal the vote,
Bev,
he may have to capitulate some of these demands.
You can speculate. I'm trying to tell you what's going to happen. That Keir Starmer...
All right, MYSTIC Meg. We're all speculating.
No, I'm not speculating, because actually I do know what's happening in the Labour Party, and they're not going to accept this.
So
it is
things
really simple.
Yes, but how can a lobby group feel empowered to make demands like this against Keir Starmer? One of which is commit 7% of public sector pensions to Islamic funds.
And ethical funds, actually.
And ethical funds.
I've just said it's not going to happen, right? It's not going to happen any more than the Catholics. Than the Catholics who say we will not vote for you unless you oppose abortion, right? We will not vote for you unless you change time limits. When you're an MP...
I don't see those people. I did not see those people using abortion, 40 people using it at the centre of their council election campaign.
No, I'm saying this has always happened. You wait until we get assisted dying, right? And the churches will say, you will get lots and lots of Catholics writing saying, we will not support you unless you oppose Catholic assisted dying. It has always happened.
Okay.
And the people, the people for the ethical treatment of animals will say, we will not support you unless you oppose vivisection. Honestly, Bev...
But they aren't winning council seats in the same way. One of these demands issued guidance that Muslims are allowed to pray at school. That is related to the Catherine Birbalsingh case recently.
You're right to say that actually that these communities tend to be a lot more politically organised, but I think Scarlett's also right to say that this probably isn't going to happen on Sir Keir Starmer's watch, because actually I think his record on anti-Semitism in the party proves that he does take that very seriously.
Yeah.
But that's why I did say it's not going to happen in the short term. I'm thinking more towards the medium term. If the Labour Party is put under pressure, say, he's ousted as leader for some reason, say it's he's replaced by somebody who's a lot more hawkish on Israel, you can't necessarily make those guarantees, because, of course, the previous Labour leader was somebody who I think would have capitulated on pressure when it came to things like Israel. So you can't make those guarantees. I would say that I think Sir Keir Starmer has done a pretty good job of trying to root out anti-Semitism in the Labour Party. We have to remember how bad it was, but that doesn't mean that the job is done yet, and it doesn't mean that anti-Semites will not try to put pressure on him, on other MPs, on local councils in any way that they can.
And we have a problem of Islamophobia in the Tory party. I mean, it
is not the same.
There is
my word. It is not the same. There is nobody calling for a genocide of Muslims in this country. There is no country actually there's no Western country currently trying to, prosecute a genocide of Muslims. And all of this comes after an attack on Israeli civilians by an organised genocidal organisation. That's what prompted this. And to try to all sides it by saying, that there's also a problem of Islamophobia in the Tory party. They are not the same. Because I tell you what, show me the Tory councillor that is chanting genocidal slogans, against getting rid of Muslims. That person does not exist, and it is both sides.
Allahu Akbar is not a genocidal slogan, but of course...
But from the river to the sea is.
I'm sure
so,
he didn't
plenty
say
of
that. He didn't say that.
No, but we're talking about this broadly in the round, aren't we? We are talking about that.
He didn't say that.
This is one individual, but as Bever said, there are lots of people who are standing on this platform.
But you're saying what you think they might have said, which I'm saying...
No, I'm saying what I've heard on marches, I've heard at demonstrations, I've heard at hustings.
But you're now telling me that councillors have said it and they haven't said it.
I tell you what, let's just wait. Let's wait a year. Let's wait and see if this actually does manifest.
Kathy has actually got in touch and said Keir Starmer already capitulated when he got Sir Lindsay Hoyle to change the Parliament debate. She's right. I'd sort of forgotten that. That was about whether they were going to debate.
That was
whether
not about capitulating to Muslims. Actually, that was a sort of a trickery about a vote, and it was actually about not capitulating to the SNP. It was very, very. I mean, to go into what actually happened, where I frankly think that nobody behaved very well. I don't think the SNP. I don't think the Tories. I don't think Labour behaved well. That wasn't capitulating. Benedict is right. He's not going to capitulate. But actually, I just don't see it happening. But what we have to do is we have to not insult the Muslims. And what they feel is, I mean, what a lot of Muslims feel is that Labour is not saying enough about tens of thousands of people being killed in Gaza.
And also, they could say what they want. It's not going to change anything in the Middle East. It's not like Benjamin Netanyahu suddenly going to say, oh, Mothin Ali in Leeds, suddenly he's been elected and he said, Allahu Akbar, right, I better stop bombing Gaza.
I tell you what, we've also just seen the double standards there, though, saying we're not allowed to insult Muslims, but Catholics are a perfectly acceptable group to beat what their views are. That's perfectly fine to just, erode...
I didn't insult Catholics.
What I said we can't insult the Muslims, but Catholicism, that's fair game in this country. Always has been.
What I said about the Catholics is that when abortion came up, a lot of Catholics, encouraged by their priests, wrote, I mean, this is just a fact, wrote to MPs saying, we will not vote for you if you...
If I sat here and I said something
We've got to wind up. Anyway, that's just for part one. The Muslim Council of Britain's Secretary-General Zahra Mohammed has said these election results are a wake-up call to all parties. Politicians can't take anyone for granted, especially not British Muslims. The dissatisfaction with politicians is palpable and the response to the atrocities in Gaza is only the tip of the iceberg.